to Bridge News Caucasus. I'm Lizzie Nozadze, and together with my colleague David Ahmedov, we'll be reporting today's most interesting news.
Hello and welcome. In today's program, we are taking a closer look at how political developments in Georgia affecting life, from protests and media freedom to business, environment, and the tourism.
European Union warns Georgia, visa-free travel at risk.
Russian influence weakening in the Caucasus. Who will step in?
Who will be silenced? How far impact on media, women, and queer? Georgia's path toward European integration is at risk, as the EU raises serious concerns over the country's democratic decline. In response to escalating authoritarian move by the ruling Georgian Dream Party, EU leaders are now considering tough measures, including the suspension of key agreements.
Was that we really need to improve the situation of the people on the ground.
Georgia's democratic backsliding will come at cost. Kaja Kallas, the EU's High Representative for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy, said, following the EU Foreign Affairs Council meeting on Tuesday. Kallas said that as the assault on democracy by Georgian Dream is growing more severe, the EU has discussed different options that include suspending the visa-free regime, the association agreement, and the adoption of sanctions. EU Foreign Affairs Council called upon the Georgian government to ensure and uphold the protection of fundamental rights of all Georgian citizens, including the freedom of association, assembly and expression, the right to privacy, the right to participate in the public affairs, as well as the prohibition of discrimination. According to Radio Free Europe, the EU Commission is preparing a letter to the Georgian government indicating that the deadline to fulfill all the requirements is August 21st.
So far we have kept this position that we don't want to hurt Georgian people, and taking away the visa-free regime is really having an impact on them. But at the same time, it's also an issue of credibility of the European Union. If we have asked those things, and this is something beneficial or bonus that we are giving to this country, they are not complying with these conditions, then there are also consequences. In order for the public also to see that the government is not on the European path and is not, taking the candidacy status seriously.
Armenia and Azerbaijan may be nearing a historic peace deal, as shifting alliance and U.S. involvement reshape the South Caucasus. Here's the report.
One that we just seem to have, Armenia and Azerbaijan, it looks like that's going to come to a successful conclusion.
In Washington, President Donald Trump hinted at peace, saying the Armenia-Azerbaijan conflict will soon be successfully and finally resolved. But on the ground, deeper geopolitical shifts are reshaping the region. Political analysts say that possible U.S. involvement in the resolution of decades-long Armenia-Azerbaijan conflict may be a clear sign that Russia's influence in the region is diminishing. Azerbaijan is pursuing stronger ties with Turkey, while Armenia is openly distancing itself from Russia and following a pro-European path. Tensions between Azerbaijan and Russia erupted in June, after two Azerbaijani brothers died in Russian police detention in Yekaterinburg. Independent autopsies confirmed they suffered brutal beating, sparking outrage across Azerbaijan. Baku responded with force, launching a criminal investigation, cancelling cultural ties with Moscow, and raiding the offices of Sputnik Azerbaijan. Several Russian-affiliated journalists were detained on financial crime charges. Meanwhile, Armenia is drifting away from Russia, in a very different direction toward Europe. Prime Minister Pashinyan recently met with top EU officials in Brussels to finalize a new partnership agenda. While non-European membership timeline has been given, Armenia has already passed legislation to begin the accession process. While Armenia moves west, Azerbaijan is confronting Moscow head-on. Russian officials have not publicly commented on losing their grip on a region it once dominated.
Earlier today, our correspondent Anna Balian talked to political analyst Gianodia about geopolitical shifts taking place in South Caucasus, and she asked whether Russia's role is declining and U.S. influence is increasing.
our environment, our neighborhood is in the process of transformation. We see that generally positions of Russia are weakening. Maybe United States are regaining its foothold in the region, and we have these very unexpected and strange changes that Armenia moves away from Russia and Georgia moves towards Russia. But generally, the situation is very uncertain. Lots of things will depend on the end of Ukraine war. But of course, Armenia's shift, as well as to some extent Azerbaijan's shift away from Russia, that's a very important fact. At this point, it reflects a very important trend, and this new trend is linked to the end of Karabakh conflict, and we all hope that it will be followed by a peace agreement. And if there is a peace agreement between Armenia and Azerbaijan, that will be irreversible and fundamental change to the situation.
In Georgia, protests outside the parliament have continued for more than 200 days. Demonstrators are voicing concerns about growing authoritarianism and attack on press freedom. Journalists covering the protests say they are facing increased pressure. Some have been fined simply for doing their job. We hear directly from those on the ground about what it's like to report under pressure. Shotosova brings us a story.
In front of me is the Georgian parliament, the main site of ongoing protest. For more than 200 days, people have gathered here, speaking out against its government's growing authoritarian rule, including its attack on press freedom.
Georgian government has tightened its grip on journalists covering ongoing protests. Reporters wearing press badges have even been fined simply for doing their job. Zura, a journalist from an online media outlet, spoke on camera about how these new laws are making it harder for journalists to work freely.
They will fine journalists that cross the street even if they are journalists, if they are on duty, because they're adopting a law which says that you can stay on the road only for a certain amount of time, but no one says what amount of time is enough for your duties.
On May 31st, the Georgian interpretation of the American Foreign Agent Registration Act, FARA, came into effect. However, many fear that this version is vague and could be used to limit free speech and silence critical voices.
In general, FARA is restricting everything because Georgia is not big and most of the budget depends on the foreign investments. So this FARA actually restricts and kills journalism entirely.
Lia Chaknashvili, director of Georgian Charter of Journalistic Ethics, talked about the challenges journalists are now facing.
It introduces criminal responsibility for non-compliance for organizations, heads, directors, board chair, and envisages up to 5 years in prison. We, for example, we stopped receiving and spending any foreign funds past May 31.
Her organization, which works to improve journalism standards, recently had to move to a smaller office and reduce its staff.
And if things don't change radically in nearest future, I think that we're witnessing final months of Georgian media.
George Gogwa, co-founder of Project 64, an independent media outlet, said they used to receive international grants. Now they are trying to find new ways to fund their work so they can keep reporting.
I mean, in our case, the way to continue is that like what we have been doing and like we are now like trying it even more is that like we find to be financially independent, right? Like with the studio here, like services we provide, of course that's not enough and we are doing everything we can to do that. This is the only strategy. Is it realistic? No, it's not. Like, I mean, this is highly doubtful that this year we will have this 100% financial independence from all the grants. But the thing that like we are not accepting any grants anymore because like we do not want to get arrested.
When asked about fear of government pressure, he answered openly.
But is there like fear, like Georgian dream, or like all the regime gonna?
Yes, of course. I mean, yeah. I mean, they can do whatever they want. This thing is that like, at least for now, that's not illegal. This is the only thing. It's not illegal. But if they do not like us, they could like they could find the reasons to attack us. So there's always a risk. It's not like I will continue until there is at least 1% chance to continue. Until they cut all the ways. That's the thing. If at some point that it has no sense, yeah, I mean I will stop or I'll find another way. But like I will continue as much as it takes and as much as I will have the physical possibility to.
The future of press freedom in Georgia is uncertain, but independent media like Project 64 are still working hard to report the truth, something every free society needs. Shota Stava, reporting from Tbilisi, Georgia.
Human rights watchdogs say that Azerbaijan remains one of the most repressive environments for journalists in the region. At least 25 media workers are currently imprisoned. Some who fled to Georgia still face threats, surveillance, or legal pressure. This report follows the stories of Azerbaijani journalists living in exile, reported by Javid Ahmedov.
We're allowed to be in opposition here.
Yeah, it is allowed, of course.
I mean, NGOs are the subject of a crackdown. Journalists are the subject of a crackdown.
Not at all.
Critics are in jail.
No, not at all.
None of this is true.
Absolutely fake.
This is Liberty Square in Tbilisi, a well-known symbol of independence and democratic values in Georgia. Just across the border in Azerbaijan, the government officially celebrates July 22 as a press day and presents itself as a defender of media freedom. In this report, we look at how that claim aligns with the experience of Azerbaijani journalists living exile here in Georgia. One of those who left Azerbaijan is journalist Ismi Shahzadeh. He spent more than a decade covering human rights, political conflict, and social issues in the country. Under growing pressure on independent media, he relocated to Georgia, where many Azerbaijani journalists and activists have found safety. Even here, some say the feeling of surveillance remains.
Every year, every month, we are just getting news is, someone arrested, someone released, someone like surveillanced, or someone like blackmailed, or a lot of like daily life. We are getting this kind of news. Of course, it's really hard. It's really hard, and as psychologically, it makes you sometimes so burnout. While I'm going to outside or to somewhere, I'm checking my eyes, always like trying to be very attentive.
While many Azerbaijani journalists continue their work from abroad, some have also faced legal pressure outside their home country. Another Azerbaijani journalist, Afgan Sadigov, is also now based in Georgia. He leads the independent news platform Azel TV and frequently takes part in protests outside the Georgian parliament. In August 2024, Sadigov was arrested by Georgian police following an extradition request from the Azerbaijani government. He was released on bail in April 2025 and remains restricted from leaving Georgia.
Burada Azərbaycanın daha böyük təhlükələri var. Çünki Azərbaycan hakimiyyəti dəfələrlə eşitdirib ki, əgər Gürcüstanda Əfqanın başına bir şey gələrsə, Azərbaycan deyil ki, biz zabitə olaq. Gürcüstan hökuməti zabitə olsun. Necə ki, Vidadi İskəndərlini Fransada öldürtdürdülər, Azərbaycan tərəfindən öldürdülər. Sonra da İlham Əliyev çıxıb dedi ki, Fransa polisi bununla maraqlansın. Fransa biz zabit deyilik ki. Burada da çox eşitdiriblər mənə də, ailə üzvlərimə də ki, Əfqana hər başına hər hansı iş gəlsə, biz ona zabit deyilik.
Maryam Kvelashvili, Sadigov's lawyer in Tbilisi, has worked on multiple politically sensitive cases involving Azerbaijani journalists. She says This case illustrates the growing complexity of legal defense when transnational pressure is involved.
Maybe will be the situation that we cannot protect him in Georgia because there is a situation we know that the Azerbaijan and Georgian Dream had a very good friendship, and we also know that when Kobakhidze meet with Aliyev, maybe they talk about Sadiko case too.
Muhtarlı's case is often cited as a turning point, a moment that reshaped how exile, safety, and cross-border cooperation are understood in this region. It raised long-term questions about whether neighboring democracies can act as safe havens when political pressure crosses borders. On this street in Tbilisi, Azerbaijani journalist Afgan Muhtarlı was abducted on May 29, 2017. He was later found in detention in Baku, charged by Azerbaijan authorities. At the time, he had been living in Georgia after leaving Azerbaijan. His case drew attention from international human rights organizations and media outlets. We spoke to him about what happened.
Gürcüstan hakimiyyəti, indiki rejim daxilində orada hətta yaşamaq belə təhlükəli. Azərbaycanlı jurnalistləri, tənqidçi şəxslərin, vətəndaş cəmiyyətinin fəallarının Gürcüstanda yaşaması təhlükəli. Biz bunu Əfqan Sadıqovun timsalında gördük və Əfqan Sadıqov, mən də qeyd edeyim ki, sizə bəxti gətirən adamlardan biri. Əfqan Sadıqovun bəxti onda gətirdi ki, onu aeroportda saxladılar, biz onu tutmadılar dərhal Azərbaycana göndərmədilər.
In May, Georgia Parliament passed a Foreign Agent Registration Act. It forces NGOs and media with foreign funding to register as agents of foreign influence. Those who don't comply could face criminal charges. Human rights defenders say the law threatens civil society. Women rights groups are among the hardest hit. Zeynep Iskandarova reports on how female activists are pushing back, despite the risks.
In Georgia, the soul of the country has always had a woman's face. She's a mother, a fighter, a caretaker, and a queen. From the hills above Tbilisi, she watches over us, mother of Georgia, Kartlis Deda, with wine in one hand to welcome and the sword in other hand to defend. Georgian women hold up families, drive communities, lead businesses, raise voice in the protest, and yet they walk a delicate line in a patriarchal culture. She's a both breadwinner and housewife. She's about the heart of the home and the hope of the nation. But today, the hope is being tested. Georgia's new foreign agent law. Modeled after a similar law in Russia, requires any organization receiving more than 20% of their funding from abroad to register as a foreign agent. Among the many organizations now facing pressure under the foreign agent law is Sapari.
Sapari is the women and children rights defender organization, one of the bigger ones in Georgia. We are working for already 24 years in this field. We have many projects and many beneficiaries and many women who we saved from the very dangerous and very sad situations. And we are continuing working today even with the FARA, so-called FARA law, because it's like the same Russian law which the Georgian Dream tried to introduce a few years ago and a few times. But at this time they succeeded. But still we didn't register. We think that this law is absolutely stands out of law.
Samira Ismailova has been active in Georgia's political and the civil space for years. Her work focuses on women from ethnic minority communities, voices often left out of public conversations. Now, her organization is refusing to register under the new law.
Son 2 ilin ərzində ümumiyyətlə gündəm Gürcüstanda demək olar ki, tamamilə dəyişdi.
In the past 2 years, the entire agenda in Georgia has changed. And now, it's not just about receiving funding, we are facing the reality of organizations physically disappearing. For example, our organization was not only working with youth, but also working with ethnic Azerbaijani Muslim women who often lacked access to education, legal support, psychological and medical services. I would like to note that our organization, the Civil Equality Platform, has not registered under the law. Although we have currently suspended operations, in reality, this is a risk both for us and for our beneficiaries. But the reason we are not registering is because we see that organizations with the register are held responsible in concerning ways. They are required to submit personal data and the other sensitive information.
Sırf olaraq hər hansısa bir şəxs haqqında məlumatlar.
In the crowds that continue to gather, many are mothers. Some are calling for the release of their children, others opposing the foreign agent law, and many demanding answer after recent elections. For them, protest is no longer just political. It is personal.
First of all, I'm not dividing people as women and men. For me, human is the main word in the world. I'm human, and I want peace, I want freedom for everyone in Georgia and in whole world.
When the Russian law was first introduced, and we were all like, are we going to shut down like everything and just leave? And we were like, no, we cannot do this to these women, and we're obligated, and we have this, how to say it, we have these responsibilities, and we will not give them up. So, yeah.
The mother of Georgia still stands, wine and sword in hand. But the women she represented are wondering, who will raise their voice if theirs is taken away?
As Georgia's political crisis deepens and democratic institutions face increasing pressure, queer communities remain among the most vulnerable. Escalating government hostility and lack of legal protection have left many LGBTQ+ individuals feeling unsafe and silenced in their own country. In this report, journalist Mehriban Karimova speaks to LGBTQ+ individuals who still live openly in the country and those who were forced to flee when life at home became unsafe. Queer people in Georgia are facing growing threats. From political pressure, conservative groups, and rising violence, activism has become more dangerous, and being openly queer often means being at risk. Yet, instead of backing down, the community is shifting tactics, finding new ways to organize, support each other, and keep their fight alive.
Lesbian Resistance was created in 2020 as a non-registered, non-hierarchical group. We were never registered because it was our political choice. We did not want to be an NGO, and we still are not. And I think it was very strategic, political and smart decision, and we saw why. Because when the government started to this crackdown on the NGOs, these bigger NGOs, or like all of them, were caught up in this bureaucracy, like in the legalities. They had to deal with lots of legislative issues, while our group never had to deal with that. Lesbians were the ones who were standing on the front lines in all the cities in Georgia from the beginning. It was always like that, and it was very visible now, like when this protest broke up. And up until now, if you go to Zugdidi, if you go to Batumi or Kutaisi, you see that lesbians are the ones who are carrying the loudspeakers up until now. And now in Georgia, it is very common to hear and like people saying that this protest has a woman's voice.
Beyond protests and public actions, queer women are building safer spaces, small gatherings where activists meet, create, rest and reflect. These are not just social events. They are places where political conversations continue and where resistance can happen away from public view.
The events that we organize are about poetry or maybe creating some art together. Maybe also some discussions around some difficult political events. But what we do, it's not only some fun and recreation, because we're a political group, meaning that we stand on very strong political ideology.
Queerness, in a way, saved my life.
One of the key figures in this fight is Gwansa, co-founder of Queer Initiative. Known for protests, public events and online advocacy, they remain one of the most visible voices even as the risks grow.
Maybe they will arrest me. Like every day I think about that maybe they will arrest me today. Or maybe they will take my driver's license. Or maybe, I don't know, they can do so many things because they have unlimited power right now. Maybe I need a rest because I'm really burned out, because like this process is going for so many years. Like I am an activist from 2019 when my first protest was actually Basiani protest. I was only 17 years old, but I got the main idea. I didn't want censorship. I didn't want to especially police go into clubs. I don't want to go, but most of my friends already left. Most of my close people already left, and they are gone. Like they are not thinking about coming back. Nobody wants to live in this situation.
Maybe you know we are from Georgia country, and if we play this performance in Georgia right now, we'll be immediately arrested.
For others, the risks became too high. Nikita, a drag artist and musician now in exile in Belgium, shares their story of leaving Georgia and how they're supporting others forced to do the same.
We're kind of illegal right now in our country. There are too many people from Georgia, like queer community, mostly trans umbrella people, who's just like living day by day by day by day the Georgia. The day when me and my ex-partner decided to leave the country was the day after when Kesari Abramidze just murdered. Always if someone is just like mentioning that they're leaving, immediately I'm calling and hey, I'm here to help you, you're safe, don't worry. I know that it's like very stressful and anxious thing to do, but the day after you put your feet on the belt, like on this side where I am, I will be with you. Georgian drag scene is like full of a bunch of angry and resistant queer people who just want to say their messages, their words in a different kind of genre, different kind of medium, because like some people doing some very campy, very funny, but very, how to say, like in the underline, in the under message is always something very crucial what we need in the community. I love Georgian drag queens and I love Georgian drag, that like I was always watching some kind of statement from people who's performing the show.
The future for Georgia's queer community is uncertain and often unsafe, but whether through protests, quiet gatherings, or exile networks, queer people are still here, still resisting, still finding ways to exist together.
It has been over 200 days since daily protests began in Tbilisi. They were sparked by Georgian Dream's decision to pause Georgia's path toward EU integration. Since then, pressure on demonstrators has grown from 5,000 gel fines to fear of arrest. Journalist Lizzie Nozase reports on the emotional and personal cost of long-term resistance in Georgia today.
This street I'm standing on right now has been the center of ongoing protests in Tbilisi, Georgia. It began with government's announcement to stop the integration in the EU. For many, this was the breaking point, but it wasn't the beginning. Years of tension had already built up from the Gavrilo protests, the Russian law, and a series of contested elections. People flooded Rustaveli Avenue in protest, but now this street looks different. The protest hasn't ended, but the atmosphere has shifted. Dozens have been fined. More than 60 people are now considered political prisoners, some of them teenagers. Protesters are followed, drug tested, and even punished for what they post online. Many people have stopped coming, not because they've stopped caring, but because they've lost faith that change is possible.
I'm very proud of the people that can still stay like every night in front of the parliament, and I think they are keeping the protest alive, but unfortunately I do not have any capacity anymore. I really wish I could, but like getting disappointed again and again, listening same speech again and again, like reading the news and nothing changed.
ერთი ამ პროცესში რისი დანაკლისიც მაგდა, მგონია რომ რის სათანადოდ შეფასებასაც ვერ ვახდენთ. გამუდმებით მართლა ესე ჩანაწერივით ვამბობთ ხოლმე რომ არ გვეშინია. სინამდვილეში მგონია რომ იმაზე მეტ ადამიანს ეშინია, ვიდრე ვაღიარებთ. მათ შორის ჩვენც გვეშინია და სულ ამას ვამბობ ხოლმე რომ უფრო დიდ სიმამაცით გვიმაჩნია რომ გეშინია, მაგრამ მაინც აგრძელებ ამ შიშზე გადაბიჯებას და მაინც აგრძელებ ამის მიუხედავად და არ შეშტები რა.
Also it's like very hard financially because like both me and my sister and my mother were like strongly participating. Imagine getting 3 people's fine. Like it would be 15,000.
ვინც ხმას ვიმაღრებთ, ნუ იმათაც გვეშინია, მართლა მეშინია. ანუ რო დავდივარ, მართლა სადღაც რო გავდივარ, ეს რა ქვია, ვიყურები, მართლა ზურგს უკან რომ ვიღაცა ხო არ მომდევს და მგონია რომ ამ შიშის შეფასებას ვერ ვახდენთ სათანადოდ რა. ანუ გასააზრებელი და სალაპარაკოა ამ შიშზე ჯობია რომ რაღაცა ხმამაღლა ითქვას რომ ხო გვეშინია. მით უფრო გავაგებინოთ იმ ადამიანებს რომ განა მე შენგან განსხვავებული ვარ ამადენად რომ მართლა არაფერს არ მეც მეშინია, მეც შენთან ერთად ვარ ამ შიშში და იქნებ რაღაცა უფრო მეტი საერთო დაინახოს ჩვენთან ერთად და იქნებ ამან უფრო მოიყვანოს ჩვენ გვერდით.
Psychologist Elena Jafaridze, who has been very active on social media since the protest began, explains that long-term political crises create different psychological responses. Some people get overwhelmed and freeze. Most people go through a cycle: anger, action, disappointment, and finally withdrawal. And then there are a few who keep going, not because they're fearless, but because hope for them isn't just a feeling. It's a structure, a form of identity, and the protest, even when it's small, is how they hold on to it.
წყალი რომ მოგვასხეს ბიჭები რომ გადამეფარენ ფორმულას ჟურნალისტები.
In the second part of the program, you will see polluted river in Marneuli, how locals are affected, who's to blame,
how Georgia's political situation affects tourism and foreign business.
Stray dogs remain a shared problem in Georgia and Armenia. In Georgia's Marneuli district, pollution in the Algeti River has become a growing concern. This river, which runs through the center of this mostly ethnic Azerbaijani area, is visibly filled with waste. Locals blame government inaction, while officials point to public negligence. Despite cleanup efforts earlier this year, the garbage has piled up again. Aytaç Mamedova reports from Marneuli on why the river is still struggling with pollution.
At first glance, seeing someone washing their hands and clothes with river water might seem normal, until you see the other side of river.
We are in the Marneuli district, located about 40 kilometers from Tbilisi, the capital of Georgia. The majority of the district's population consists of ethnic Azerbaijanis. Right now, we are standing in the center of district, near the Marneuli Bazaar. Just behind us flows the Algety River, which is filled with garbage.
Birbaşa virusun özüdür. Yəni bu sudan motorlarla istifadə edib, kimisi hamamına aparır, kimisi suvarma sisteminə aparır, yediyi meyvəni sulayır, fərqi yoxdur. Bu ximiyadır.
Although Nureddin Nabiyev lives in Bolnisi, he is aware of Marneuli's environmental issues. He says the problem has been raised many times, but no lasting solution has been found.
Çox pis təsir eləyir. Valla elənir də, burada durmaq mümkün deyil. Çox elənir. Ona görə ki, kanalizasiya bura bağlanıb bu çaya. Buradan aşağı kəndlər çoxdur. O kəndlər bu sudan istifadə eləyir. Qapı bacasını sulayır. Çöllərdə, nə bilim mən, pomidor əkənlər, xiyar əkənlər, bostan becərənlər, hamısı bu sudan istifadə edirlər.
Garatel Nasibov says he sometimes wants to sit by the river and relax, but the smell from the river doesn't let him. Pollution in the Algety River near the bazaar isn't accidental. Garbage bins there overflow and often go unemptied. A 2021 Urban Service Improvement Report says that Marneuli's sewage system is in poor shape. Only 20% of the population is connected to the existing sewage network. As a result, wastewater pollutes underground and surfaced waters, threatening public health. Neither side accepts full blame for the pollution. Residents say authorities are negligent, while officials say citizens are careless.
Biz tələb eləsək də eləyən deyilər, yalandan deyirik. Vallahi eləmirlər Allah haqqı. O gün getmişdik də rayona xalq yolu yığışırdı, yolda gene hemen xalq var. Rayona etmişdik, xalq yığılıb maşınla. Heç kim də tələb elədik, heç yığışıran da olmadı.
Sıradan çıxmış kanalizasiya sistemləri, sıradan çıxmış yol infrastrukturları heç bir sahədə bizim millətin qeydinə qalınmır. Yəni bizi təmsil edən insanları ora seçmişik ki, bizə qulluq etsinlər, yalnız yenə də vurdum duymazlıq edirlər.
In May, Marneuli Council member Vasil Kakulashvili told Radio Marneuli that despite cleaning the riverside, rain and local negligence caused the pollution to return.
A tender was announced for the protection and cleaning of the Algety riverbed. Specialists conducted an on-site inspection and submitted a cost estimate. We carried out landscaping and thoroughly cleaned the river up to the market area. But heavy rains and the flow of garbage polluted it again. People need to understand that no municipality or cleaning service can completely prevent waste from being thrown into the river.
Meriyaya bir də sual vermək lazımdır ki, siz hər məhəlləyə, hər uban, gürcülər uban deyirlər də məhəlləyə. Hər məhəlləyə siz zibul qutularını qoysanız, kanalizasiya sistemlərini düzgün tənzimləsəniz, inşa etsəniz, millət axmaqdır, dəlidir, nədir, zibili çaya döksün.
We followed Algety River and arrived at the village of Algety, which shares the same name. Let's see the condition of Algety River in here.
Unlike near the bazaar, the river by Algety village looked cleaner, with someone even fishing. But as you get closer, you can see sewage from a toilet flowing straight into the river, with trash littering the area nearby. So, what does Georgian legislation say about river pollution? Georgia has laws like the 1997 water law.
that require polluters to pay for damage, but enforcement is weak. Pollution taxes were removed in 2004, reducing pressure on polluters. In 2007, rules needing factories and towns to get permission before releasing wastewater were also dropped, making pollution harder to control. As evening falls, we return to Marneli. The bazaar is slowly closing and garbage is being swept up, but where that garbage ends up, that remains unknown.
Georgia has promoted itself as a hub for investment and entrepreneurship. But recent political tensions are raising concerns among small business owners. One Italian restaurant owner in Tbilisi said the uncertainty is already affecting daily operations. Others across the different sectors are voicing similar concern. This report by Anna Balyan looks at how political developments are shaping Georgia's business climate.
At first glance, these foreign restaurants bring a touch of Europe to Georgia's booming hospitality sector. But behind the imported wine and familiar flavors are real struggles that challenge their survival. Antonio Joffri, an Italian entrepreneur, is in the kitchen of the restaurant he founded in Tbilisi. After running restaurants in Italy and Russia, he opened an Italian restaurant here at the end of last year. And he was immediately surprised. If in the past registering a new business only required a passport, the recent adoption of laws aimed at increasing financial transparency has multiplied the bureaucracy.
Antonio, but this is your oil, no? Extra virgin olive oil.
Questo è l'olio che produce la mia famiglia in Calabria.
This olive oil is from the 5th generation of Antonio's family. He brings in directly from Italy. Authentic food is his brand, and this pure Italian product is used in all his restaurants. In his Georgian restaurant, boxes of it stand in the kitchen, clearly marked with Italian labels. There are also other imported Italian products used daily in the cooking process.
Ero completamente nudo.
Frank Muzzoni is a Canadian businessman who now operates in Georgia's hospitality sector. He manages several high-rank hotels, the region's only international medical mall, and personally owns a pub and a guest house. In the hospitality sector, we are all suffering ups and downs, Frank says. In 2020, we had COVID, and just recently there were protests. There is no resolution in sight. We have seen a huge decline in reservations. The war in Iran is also affecting the region.
Oh, amore mio, now we're talking about something that is very difficult because every ingredient we buy, we pay for a transportation cost. And transportation cost and passing the border here is horrible because sometimes it could be stuck at customs for weeks and weeks. A pizza in Italy will cost me, and this is without a joke, a pizza in Italy will cost €5. A pizza here, the same pizza, costs 35, sometimes 30 lari, which is super expensive because of the import tax.
The 45 GEL includes customs duty, value-added tax, transportation cost, and other expenses. Let's assume the customs value of the European cheese and prosciutto is 3,000 lari. The value-added tax is 18% of 3,000 lari, which equals 540 lari. If we assume 5% customs duty, it would be 150 lari. The customs declaration fee could be approximately from 15 to 180 Georgian lari, depending on the volume. Therefore, the total cost would be 3,705 lari. Additionally, transportation costs would be added to this total.
Волнения у нас в Грузии были, акции протестов и так далее. В это время, к сожалению, очень много ресторанов прекратило свою деятельность, потому что закрывались, не было туристов, не было гостей. Естественно, когда в стране такое положение, люди стараются думать о другом, а не о том, чтобы там по вечерам ходить в рестораны. И вот в такие моменты, наверное, государству было бы неплохо, если бы поддерживало, например, какие-то отсрочки по выплатам налогов, может быть, какая-то другая помощь, может быть, какое-то финансирование, часть какую-то финансирования.
We reached out to Georgia's Ministry of Economy and Sustainable Development to ask how they plan to address these concerns. We sent a formal request to their official email, but they didn't reply. To better understand the Georgian government's real stance and policies regarding the hospitality sector, we met with Tsotne Japaridze, a Georgian entrepreneur with 15 years of experience in the field. His winery is located in Gori.
Our winery is called Wine of Freedom. That was also, the name was also inspired from all those activities and all those, pains that we have in our heart.
Tsotne says the hospitality sector is going through a very difficult period, which is only natural, he adds, when a government takes steps that bring negative consequences. Every time during the tourism season, the government comes up with a project or makes an announcement that sparks protest actions, damaging tourism, he says. What is the main problem for the business in Georgia?
So business, I would say that the biggest problem is that you don't know what will happen tomorrow. That's the instability and not guaranteed, more or less guaranteed business climate and environment is most difficult for every business.
What can change the Ministry of Economy and Development of Georgia?
They will not do anything because they don't care. As we mentioned before, all the government institutions are working in order just to make this oligarch happy, this feudal happy.
Tsotne, his sons and his friends take part in the nearly every protests.
I'll live a life on a merry-go-round, and you can fight the fire.
Foreign investors and managers for now are solving daily problems by older methods, helping each other. When staff is short, one sends their waiters to another's restaurant. Guests who finish dinner at one business are sent to sleep to another's hotel.
Tourism has long been one of Georgia's fastest growing and most celebrated sectors, a vital contributor to the economy and soft power bridge to the world. But what's really happening now as political tensions rise and regional instability continues to shape perceptions from abroad? While government officials insist that the tourism industry is thriving, the numbers and lived experiences tell a more complex story. In this report, Gayan Markosyan examines the key challenges facing the sector and speaks with both seasoned industry professionals and first-time visitors.
For decades, Georgia has one of the attractive destinations in the region. In 2050, Georgia has nearly 7 million tourists. That year, Georgian National Tourist Administration published its strategy, where it was mentioned that till in the end of 2025, Georgia will have 12 million tourists. Now, obvious that Georgia cannot have 12 million tourists till in the end of this year. What happened? What factors impact on this situation? How Georgian inside and outside political development influence in country's tourism sphere?
On the streets of Tbilisi, you can often see large and small groups of tourists who prefer to enjoy the city's culture and color through walking tours. In recent years, Zura Balanchivadze, who is active in the tourism sector, presents every day to tourists the stylish balcony typical of Tbilisi, the architecture of the Soviet and post-Soviet periods, and the special features of Georgian wine. According to the guide, the slow pace of tourism development in recent years is due to several factors. One of these factors is the internal developments in the country, including the decline of democracy in Georgia.
Now the level of democracy in our country is going down. Of course, it does not directly affect to the other country citizens, but when the country is known to worsen its democratic institution, of course, it will affect somehow to the type of people who are coming here.
His view is shared by a colleague who is director in tourism sector organization.
This kind of small protests, which is a calm,
again, in the long term, it's of course play really not good role, not a good role in our country process, and of course reduce the number of the tourists, which is we don't want. We are this country have one, and I guess the main economical source, still tourists.
After last fall's parliamentary elections in Georgia, the internal political situation in the country has become tense. The protests continue to this day, keeping some parts of the city under pressure, especially in the evenings.
Bottle of the sparkling water, if you shake and open straight, it will be explode, right? And have like a lot of spark going on. Now it's like somebody opening slowly. This is like how slowly and calm going the protest. And we need the one shake and immediately open them, because now what's the process going on? It's not good for the country, for the people who is like surrounding me. Most of them is like for sure pro-Europeans, and we have a really big conflict with our government in this case.
Despite the internal political developments, Georgia is still seen as a safe country, both by people working in the sector and by tourists.
To be honest, actually, I've not seen any person saying that Georgia is not safe for them. Yeah, that's the thing, because even during the protests, yes, they go when they travel to the remote places like the mountains, etc. So there is kind of calmness in the mountains or etc. So because like a capital and big cities have this like a turmoil, yes. When you go beyond, for good or for the bad, it is not really seen that way, yes. So that is why for them it's quite safe. So
the country is very safe. We are here for 20 days. It's the last days in Tbilisi, and we visit many things in Georgia. People are very kind, and we're safe. We're always safe.
В Грузии очень красиво, хорошая инфраструктура, здесь хорошая аутентичность и очень много интересных туристов.
Another reason affecting tourist flows is inflation in Georgia in recent years, because of which the country is slowly losing its image as an affordable travel destination.
Long-term, Georgia is losing its place there. So prices went up, and that also affected. Yes, but Georgia was still considered to be a cheap country.
The processes happening in the country affect not only the flow of tourists, but also their geographic origin.
So you want it or not, people want West. Yeah, because people want like it's economic growth. People want rich tourists. And if you do not provide with rich tourists, if you have, like, let's say, a bus full of 60 people from the Middle East, and you have a little marshutka, and with the people in marshutka can pay the same amount with the huge bus with 60 people, of course you will prefer, that one, yes?
Usually I cannot expect anything end of the year. It's unbelievable, because there's a lot of things going on in the region. I'm talking about, of course, the geopolitical situation, which is, of course, affecting the numbers in those countries. I mean, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Georgia, also Turkey, also in Iran, which is going on now hard times.
To restore its former tourism reputation, the country today needs infrastructure development as well as regional peace and stability. Gane Markosyan, GIPA.
If you live in South Caucasus, you have probably seen stray dogs on nearly every corner. But the issue has grown into a crisis across the region, including in Tbilisi and cities in Armenia. In tonight's report, journalist Hasmi Kambardumyan take us to the streets of Tbilisi to see how the government and local shelters are working to address the problem and what needs to change.
Stray dogs living on the Armenian-Georgian border lazily accompany border-crossing citizens. None of them are asked for a passport. Their shelter is the two countries' border checkpoint, and their feeders are random passers-by. In both neighboring countries, Georgia and Armenia, the issue of homeless stray dogs is significant. With an estimated 30,000 dogs roaming the capital and up to 350,000 stray animals nationwide, Georgia's stray dog problem has grown into one of the country's most pressing urban challenges. In Tbilisi, strays are everywhere, from Varketili to Vake. But here they are not treated cruelly. People show affection and feed them in the streets. It's common to see food bowls left out specifically for dogs on Tbilisi's sidewalks. But still, people have fears.
A few days ago, near Ahmeteli metro station, a pregnant woman was standing there, and the dog was barking so aggressively it really scared her. There shouldn't be such many dogs on the streets.
This citizen, calmly standing next to a half-asleep dog, also believes stray dogs are dangerous. They are dangerous, really dangerous. They scare people. Public concern about stray animals in Georgia is growing. In 2020, only 4% of people said it was a major issue. That number slowly rose to 6% in 2021, then to 18% in 2022. And in 2023, it reached its highest point yet. 22% of Georgians now see it as a priority problem. The Animal Monitoring Agency carried out a census in 2023, revealing that over 30,000 stray dogs live in Tbilisi, but only a third have been sterilized or neutralized. The Georgian parliament is determined to resolve the problem.
We are launching a state program to house stray homeless animals in proper facilities and implement procedures to prevent their uncontrolled reproduction. We will also develop an electronic system and adopt regulatory legislation.
For example, pet owners will be required to identify their animals via microchipping. Abandoning dogs will incur substantial administrative fines. According to Medina Radze, the goal is to create legislation that makes it nearly impossible to easily abandon an animal, but it will take time and effort.
Georgia is home.
The NGO Zero Strays, which addresses the issue in Georgia, focuses on sterilizing strays and supporting proper legislation. Additionally, it offers individual rescue help when needed and facilitates adoption of animals abroad. However, the organization doubts the government will effectively resolve the problem.
Right now, the parliament is preoccupied with passing repressive laws, so this issue isn't prioritized.
Through this organization, more than 400 stray animals have been adopted both in and outside Georgia. Tsotne adopted his dog Stella, who one day entered the yard of his village house and stayed there.
Her some food, and then she decided to stay, and she's always here. So when I'm not here, when I'm gone in Tbilisi,
Why did you decide to adopt him?
Stella.
It's okay.
Yeah, because I love the dogs and the cats and any kind of animals in general.
Stray dogs?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they are so kind and they are so beautiful and they are so lovely.
Ovsanna has adopted 6 homeless, stray and abandoned animals, cats and dogs. One of them, Vicky, was in a severely paralyzed condition when adopted. They fought for months to treat the dog's illness until she recovered. She is now happy in her new home. Ovsanna is the founder of Dingo, an organization in Armenia that addresses the issue of stray dogs. They provide medical aid and care to stray animals.
When stray animals need medical support, needs treatment or surgery, we help with it, and the animals that after treatment stay invalid, they are blind or had no teeth or 3 legs, we keep them in the shelter. So we have shelter for animals with physical needs.
In Armenia, No official statistics are collected on stray dogs. There is no official count of homeless animals, whereas in the past, stray animals were routinely killed in Armenia. Such actions have now decreased due to the criminalization of animal killings. Yerevan has a small animal care center whose staff sterilize and neutralize stray animals and use social media to encourage adoption. But this small center is the only one serving the entire country and can't handle the volume. Ovsanna points out that the issue of stray animals in Armenia remains unresolved because there is no state program, no legal framework, no oversight, and therefore no large-scale sterilization across the country.
If even we take all the stray dogs now, for example, we imagine that there's a shelter that can accept all the dogs. In 1-2 years, we will have the same again because too many puppies are abandoned and too many dogs with owners are abandoned, not sterilized, and continue to breed at street. So the main problem is the missing of legislation.
While volunteers and NGOs continue to fill the gaps with limited resources, long-term solutions depend on political will and public cooperation. Without coordinated action, both Georgia and Armenia risk letting the issue grow beyond control, leaving the streets and the animals in limbo. For many, like Tsotna with Stella or Ovsanna with Vicky, one rescued dog is a life transformed on both sides. But for real change, these small stories need to become the norm, not the exception. Hasmi Kambartsumian for GIPA News.
That's the end of today's program. We have heard how politics, policy, protests shaping life in Georgia, from the city of Tbilisi to the riverbank of Marneli. Thanks for joining us on behalf of my co-presenter Liza Nozadze and our entire team. I am Shavit Ahmedov.
Until next time.